So let's get going. What do you call it? So this is our third session of our productive agent program, and the first one was kind of laying out the stuff and laying out the program, and session two and getting psyched up about that kind of stuff, and then session two was breaking down into teams and a little more, and just each week we kind of build on itself, and so the goal is that every week we add a little more to this. So being session three, so this one is the other part of it. We originally had hoped to be able to have it every other week live, every other week online. So there's going to be 2 weeks in a row. So the first two that we had live, that was intentional. And then, so now we're going to be, but this week and next week are going to be live, or I'm sorry, online. And then the following week will be, I believe we're going to do 2 live classes. What had happened was we had to swap a week, and it actually turned out pretty good. So, but next Monday is actually a holiday, and because we meet live at the community college, we could, they were closed. So, so we had to switch it around a little bit. So this week we're doing leads and lead follow-up. Next week we're going to be doing stats, and then going to the MLS and pulling different stats and things like that, and how to use them to your advantage, and how to how does that work in your lead generation. And so with that said, and then the following week we're going to be doing, and I in the meantime got it. We're going to do CMA, and I went ahead and registered a CMA class with the Division of Real Estate for CE credits. So we will be doing a CMA with pencil and paper. So we're going to go old school. It's easy to type in some information, but I would say that 90% would not know how to defend it if you were sitting down with a seller and they started picking apart, what about this, what about that? So we're going to go ahead and do a sit down with pencil and paper and a calculator and work through and actually do a CMA by hand. So it'll be pretty fun. A little old school, that's the way it used to be done prior to all the software. We did all our research on microfiche and others, right? So anyway, let's get going with today. So right now we're on session 3, and this one is leads and lead follow-up, right? So and there's going to be a lot of reiteration in this session, but again, there's always going to be reiteration, and my goal is to reiterate some and add more to it. Reiterate some, add more to it, so that way we keep building on it, building and building. So anyway, today, so the first question we always ask, and Herbie said this over and over and over, that a lead, what is a lead? And then Marie's laughing at me, microfiche. So what is a lead? And I always have the question, and there's various versions of a lead. And I'll give you one little clue. The higher your production, the lower the number of days that they're going to do something. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So for me, a lead is someone that can answer why, when, and where, right? You hear me say that all the time, right? So someone that you've communicated with and can answer why, when, and where. So let's see. Somebody just sent an email or a text. They're having I'm trying to get the app to the conference, but I don't know the password on your account. Well, that's because you don't. No, it's not. You shouldn't have a password. Shouldn't have a password. Need a password. So anyway, someone's having trouble. So someone that you have communicated with, and they can answer why, when, and where. So we talk about that all the time. You hear me say it all the time. Why, when, and where? Why, when, and where? Why, when, and where? I find it almost impossible to actually help someone at high levels if you don't know that information, because they can have you chasing unicorns, and where if you knew these questions, it could actually help you understand what it is and help them. Because especially a buyer typically always gives you a wish list. And, and of course, if they find it, if it exists, well, of course they'll buy it, right? So why wouldn't they? I'll buy it too if we can find what they're actually asking for. So, but usually what they're asking for doesn't exist. So anyway, so that's why, you got to know why, when, and where. And it's another thing is a good thing to know is, what do they live in now? So, if you have someone that's telling you they want a 5-bedroom, 3-bath with a, 3-car garage, but their budget really isn't that high, and there's 1 or 2 out there, or the idea that, if you know what they live in, let's say they're crammed in a 2-bedroom apartment, well, a nice little 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom house is going to work. So it's just little nuances I got, but let's focus on the why, when, and where. To give you an idea, if someone says, hey, if they're not motivated to move, then you need to know the why. Why are you moving? Well, if I don't sell this house in 2 weeks, it's going to foreclose and I don't have any money. So, and even if they're upside down, you could still help them with that. But if they have equity and don't, and people with equity actually lose their homes in foreclosure. It's just mind-boggling, but it's true. So it's so important that you need to know why, when, and where, because this allows you to help people at high levels. So, and then let's see, so, a name and number and so does that make sense? So if you have any questions, unmute yourself, or you can instant message me through the app here, and then I'll go ahead and do my best to keep an eye on that and answer. I've been trying to lower my other screens because it's distracting, and I get distracted. I'm not sure what to do. Then I get off track. So anyway, so we know the why, when, and where. Why, when, and where. Why are you selling your home? But typically in a scripted conversation, it's usually, hey, when you sell this, where are you guys moving to? And they go, oh, we're going to move to, South Jordan. Oh, that's awesome, South Jordan. So, hey, let me ask you, how soon do you want to be in your new home? And then they'll say, well, 1 to 3 months, or, when would you like to be sold? And I say, well, 2 to 3 months. And you want to check everything by saying, hey, let me ask you, so do you want to be sold in 2 or 3 months, or do you want to start selling at that time? Well, we'd like to be sold. Then you confirm everything with, but let me ask you this. What if I had a buyer that was willing to buy your home today, and they want to close in 30 days? Would that be a problem? And they go, well, no, that wouldn't be a problem at all. Well, you have a live person at that point, right? So, you see how checking and drilling down is really how you check and get these questions answered, because they tell you one thing, but as you start to ask questions, you start to see that there's more truth to it, if you will, right? So by asking the next set of questions, instead of just taking everything they say at face value, as long as you take everything at face value, you're going to chase things. You're going to chase unicorns. So, it's really, really important to drill down. So, and then you keep it, and by those nonchalant questions, hey, I'm curious, when you sell this, where are you guys moving to? We just asked where, and then, hey, how soon do you want to be there? Why? When? And then, man, that's awesome. So why did you guys decide to sell this house and move over there? And they'll tell you why, as long as, and then but sometimes the why can be sensitive if they're involved in a situation, maybe a divorce, or, they have a debt problem where they're in financial straits, so they may be a little standoffish on that. So just be sensitive that when you're asking about why, and they start to avoid it a little bit, usually it's because they have some type of vulnerability that they don't want to disclose because they don't perceive you as their, advocate yet. You're just a salesperson at this point, and they don't want to go ahead and disclose their vulnerability yet. But that's okay. You just keep probing, and you'll get it. So, and then we talked about before, a name and number that has indicated, so a name and number that has indicated in some form or fashion that they may be moving is considered an opportunity. And that would be someone who's filled out a web form of some sort, or, somebody called you and said, hey, my friend's thinking about moving, and they sent you over a name and number, things like that. Those are opportunities, and those are great. Opportunities turn into leads, leads turn into contracts, contracts turn into closings, and then ideally they'll turn into a referral too. So that's the game, right? Get a lead, get a contract, get a closing, get a referral. So anyway, but an opportunity. So, and the reason why I say that is because, and you can call a lead whatever you want. However, it's important to understand, or it's important to have good definitions of leads. So that way, we all kind of work on the same page. So somebody else doesn't throw out a lead and it's not the same. So let's get to the next. So let's see. So now the question is, where did I missed a page, right? Oh, where's my, I apologize. So how many leads do you need? Where's my, what? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, no, I didn't miss it. I apologize. So how many leads do you need? Well, if you want to close, one transaction a month, you need at least 5 or 6 leads, okay? And again, these are people that said why, when, and where, right? So not 5 or 6, web forms. You need literally hundreds of those, right, to get a close in a month. So it's important with regular leads, the people that you've spoken to or communicated in some form or fashion. So I'm okay with if you've been emailing back and forth. However, if it's just auto emails and stuff, to me, that's not communication. That's just, that's kind of a one-way communication. So I'm talking about a two-way communication where they've told you why, when, and where. So again, we need, five to 6 leads to close 1 deal a month. So that's roughly, and that's, they're never exact science. Numbers fluctuate over time and market cycles. Right now, you could probably have 5 buyers and, not get a deal because it's rough. The other day, I was talking to an agent and we were like, there was an area up in the Sugar House. I literally ran a report of how many active listings between 13 South and 21st South, between 5th East and 11th East, there was only 3 homes for sale. 3 homes for sale. Wow. So yeah, it could be the numbers could get skewed, but this is kind of a benchmark to work off of. And so, of course, if you want 10 to 12 leads to close 2 deals a month, and so forth. And then we'll talk about the number I mentioned, the more you produce, and there's a number we'll talk about. So it's important, and I gave those lead sheets out, and they're on the website too. We'll show you where those are. But those lead sheets are great, and we like to print them in hot pink. And I wouldn't be opposed to, I may change that to like a fluorescent green. I think lead sheets are more of a green, a money color thing. So I'd like to do that. But if you have those, if your desk looks like anything like mine, a lead can go in there and, man, you got to, let your friends know you're going to go in those piles. If you don't hear from me in a few days, come get me. So if your desk is like mine, but a nice fluorescent green sheet or a hot pink will stick out and you can find your leads. But I think you should always be carrying your leads in a folder with you. When you go out the door, have that folder, slide it between your seat and the car with you. You go to an appointment and the buyer texts and says, hey, I'm running 20 minutes late. I'm stuck on the interstate. It's a parking lot. Boom, just pull out your lead sheets. Call somebody. Let's not waste time, but always have if you always have your leads with you and visible on paper like that, you'll be more apt to call them. You'll be more focused on them. And that's the key. We need to focus on leads because leads are everything. Leads solve all your problems, right? If you don't have enough listings, then leads, you got a lead gen problem. If you don't have enough closings, you got a lead gen problem. If you don't have enough of the right type of sellers or buyers, you got a lead gen problem. So, everything falls back to leads. So we need to stay focused. We need to keep leads so front of mind that we have to really, really go out of our way. Now, there's a lot of great software out there, and I think the software, the problem with that is out of sight, out of mind. So and I think leads are so important that I think you need to go old school, carry them in a folder so they're that, to me, they're that important. where if they're filling in a web form and you haven't communicated with them, that's fine. Let the software do its deal. We'll talk about that a little bit. But these leads that are people that you've spoken or communicated that have answered why, when, and where should be in a folder and with you at all times. That's just my thoughts and opinion on that. So let's move on. So what are the two main types of leads? And I thought I had them out of order, but no, I got it in the right order. So the two types of leads are inside 30, and then there's outside 30. Let's talk about those. And this is where I was talking about the higher number per transactions per month, that this number, this inside 30, will actually go lower. People that are doing 6 to 10 deals a month, they don't consider anybody a lead unless they're going to sign something in within 7 days. So, and that's a little rough. I mean, somebody's going to sign something in 2 months. You're like, well, you don't consider it a lead. Well, and the reason why is because you don't have enough closing. People that are closing 6, 7, 10 deals a month, they're like, no, I have my parameters, and that's the way it is. So, but let's talk about that inside 30. And then 30 is not a magic number. It's just a kind of a more of a conceptual number. Inside 30 is someone that's going to sign something in 30 days, whether it be a listing contract, a buyer agency contract, or a purchase contract. So, and that's somebody that's going to do something inside of 30 days. Remember, they've answered why, when, and where, and you'll know right by asking them. So, well, let me ask you, when do you plan on moving? And they're like, well, you know, we just signed a 12-month lease. Well, they can possibly answer why, when, and where, so they can tell you why, and they can tell you when at the end of 12 months, and they can even tell you where. But that's a lead per se, because they've answered why, when, and where, but then you have to put them in a different category. But someone that says, hey, you know, my spouse just took a job in Seattle, and we already signed the offer, and the job starts next Monday, and they're flying up Friday, and I'm getting the house ready for sale. So, I mean, man, you have such a highly motivated person that you need to work on that. Now, the fundamental difference between the two is, one is they're both motivated and they're both leads. It's just that their timing is so different, right? Somebody that's not going to do something for 12 months, I mean, we're not going to follow up with them the same. So you just need to know what their category is. And again, the more deals you do per month, the lower that inside 30 number will become. Inside 7 days, inside 10 days. So, so for this, so if somebody's 31 days, yes, they're still an inside 30. If they're 60, no, then we're going to treat them a little different. Because if they're inside 30, you got the situation where a spouse is moving starting a job in Seattle or wherever in the next 7 to 10 days, or even in a couple weeks. They're highly motivated. They're going to do something. They're going to do something now. You need to stay in front of them often, because they are so alive that you cannot let them out of your sight. They are so live, you cannot let them out of your sight. My recommendation is you follow up with them every other day. Now, for some of you, that'd be like, whoa, I would rather, if we were on a coaching call and I said, hey, what happened to that lead? I would rather say I followed up every other day, they listed with somebody else, rather than I followed up once a week and they listed with someone else. You don't have a shot unless you are in front of their face. And they're not offended by that. I'm here to tell you, highly motivated people are not offended by assertive salespeople. Only unmotivated people are annoyed by an assertive, aggressive salesperson. In fact, an assertive, aggressive salesperson is sweet music to someone who has to sell their home. It is really that simple. You need to get past this idea that you may be bothering them. It's not true. And so what if you are, right? Are there other agents? Could they list with another agent that might not be as good as you? You're darn right. And if they do, well, that could be your responsibility for not following up with them the way you should have. So inside 30. Now you could call them every other day. You could call one day and then shoot them a text. Text is good if they're responding. If they're not responding, then you need to maybe pick up the phone, maybe send them an email, send them a handwritten card. Hey, it was great talking to you. Let me know what I can do to help. But you need to stay on top of these people like nobody's business. So anyway, so with that said, let's talk about an outside 30 for a minute. So an outside 30 is someone that can definitely tell you why, when, and where, but it's far further out in the future. Now, we would follow up with them in a couple of ways. One, obviously, we're not going to follow up every other day, but you can certainly put them in some sort of a drip type communication. I highly recommend direct mail because email, unless your software, if you're emailing them and you know they're opening your mail and reading it, that's one thing. However, if you don't have a system set up where you have the right software to can tell that they're actually reading your mail, then I highly recommend text messaging and or direct mail marketing. And the email is a very outside supplement because, again, these are live motivated people. The timing's just not there yet. So you want to put them on your SOI and get them in a regular drip system so that when the timing is right, and then you also put them on your calendar to maybe follow up with, say, every 2-3 months, just, maybe a quick text and say, hey, how's things going? Are you still on track for moving at the end of blah, 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 whatever, right? So that's kind of, you want to stay front of mind with them. And then as time becomes in the future, then you would move them to an inside 30. So, and then we'll talk about objections I got. Well, so what if somebody has 6 months left on their lease? What do you do? Just say no? You ask a simple question. Hey, let me ask you a question. If I could show you a way out of the lease, would you want to buy a home now? If they say, yeah, great. So the simple way out of the lease is you have a lender, a buyer's agent, a buyer, because they could lose money by prices and rates going up. So it say, hey, look, prices and rates are going up. It would behoove you to figure out a way out of this lease. And then you do the negotiation. You call the complex or the landlord, whatever, and say, look, we'll pay you a 1 month penalty. And then the lender, the loan officer, the agent, and the buyer chip in. If their rent's $1,500, you come up with $500 a piece and get them out of it, and you reimburse them at closing. So you can do a situation like that, and with the landlord, say, look, we'll give you the property broom clean, free of debris, and you can turn around and rent it out. So now you're telling the landlord, hey, what I'm going to show you is how to get 13 months rent out of this property for the year. Well, the landlord certainly got their ears perked wide up, so they're very likely to help you with this. So, but sometimes, be ready to settle down for 2 months, right? So now, if it could get a little pricey, 2 months rent at today's rents. So, but be prepared. Try to get it down to a month and a half, where the landlord can collect 13 months. So anyway, so it's just a simple solution to turn somebody in from a year to maybe a couple months. So don't underestimate that. So anyway, so let's move on. So those are the two types of leads. Now follow up. We talked about inside 30, right? How to follow up with them, right? You follow up with them often. So, and then the outside 30, we kind of talked about those. You put them on your SOI list. You want to make sure that they, that they're hearing from you, but you also want to make sure that you have it popping up on your calendar every so often to check in with them to see if things have changed. Our landlord wants to sell the house and they're really happy to let us out. You never know. Things could change. So you definitely want to stay on top of people. So, any thoughts, questions so far with what we're talking about here? So let me I'll unmute everybody. So if you have,
carpeted.
So any questions there?
Okay.
Is that a yes?
But yeah, I'm up for that. So I have connections with that. And you know what, Shane?
Okay.
Hello? I want to buy a VRBO in Hawaii, a VRBO.
So obviously multiple things are going on. And I understand it. I've been on webinars too where I wasn't highly paying attention. So anyway, so we're kind of moving toward it. So potential SOI, that's the other thing. So what if you're talking to somebody and and you find out they're not really moving, but could they be a potential SOI? Could they be someone that could be a referral source? And the way you do that, the way you treat a potential SOI is first you do an 8x8, right? You all know what an 8x8 is. You touch them 8 times in 8 weeks. And you do that via postcard, text message, handwritten card, you know, and then contact them. And every time, but on the fourth week, you phone call. 4th and 8 weeks are phone calls, right? And then you do whatever system you want. Send them a handwritten card. I always recommend a handwritten card right away. And then you send them maybe a postcard, then maybe a text message. Then your fourth contact will be a phone call. And then you would always do the, you know, hey, you know, if you were someone you know was considering buying or selling a home, do you have a realtor that you would refer them to? You know, if they say, yeah, their first cousin is, look them up. If they're productive, then, you know, maybe not, whatever, right? But if they say, yeah, no, I'd love to send you business, then you just keep it, then you move them into your regular, normal sphere of influence rotation. It's just that simple. So, you know, so when you talk to somebody, so when you're talking to anybody, whether it be a cold call, whether it be a web lead form, an SOI referral, so they fall into one of 4 things can happen. They're going to be one of 4 categories. They're either going to set an appointment with you right now. They're going to be a lead to follow up with. They're going to be in your, they're either going to, or none of those, they can potentially go into your SOI for future referrals, right? Not always future moving, future referrals, or they throw them in the trash. So everybody can fall into one of those 4 categories, and that's pretty good. 3 out of 4 can be productive for you. And then they can be an inside or outside 30, or they can move to your SOI. So, so that's there. So anyway, thoughts, questions, unmute yourself if you have any questions. We're pretty much done for today. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and unmute yourself and let's get those out of the way. So anybody out there with questions?
I know.
I was asking, or I was curious on the go back over those 4 categories again, since you didn't write it or put it on the sheet.
Say that again.
Could you recover the 4 different levels that you just did?
That's the kind of machine I want to build. So if you want to do it with me, I love you. I trust you.
Let me figure out who that is and mute them. Hold on.
As long as you're honest with me.
Let me mute everybody. Let me mute everybody. So, you're unmuted. Charles, you're unmuted.
So, Rob, what I was wondering is if you could, since you didn't have it on the slide, if you could just rename those 4 that you just covered again. Not
the 4 possibilities. Right. It's either number 1, it's an appointment.
It's okay.
Number 2, it's a lead that you can follow up with. Right. Remember, the objective is always to set an appointment, right? So that's always the number 1 objective. So, but if they don't close for the appointment today, then are they qualified? Have they answered why, when, where, to where you can put them in a, you know, to where you can follow up with them. So, I mean, if they're not, I mean, because if they're not really a lead, if they're not answering why, when, and where, then really, are they a lead? You know? And then if they're not a lead, if they are a lead, obviously you want to follow up with them. If they're not a lead, then could they be a potential candidate to be put in your SOI system that could send you referrals in the future? So, in the way you do that is you move them into an 8x8. You know, you say, hey, you send them a handwritten card right away. It was great talking to you. A week later, maybe send them a postcard. You know, a week later, text them. And then, you know, a week later, call them and say, you know, that's your 4th touch. Say, hey, you know, and then you ask them, and then you just kind of move them in. And if they say, yeah, they refer business to you, then you move them into your, what do you call it, SOI rotation, to where they could send you referrals in the future. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Or the trash. I mean, if they're not going to send you referrals and they're not moving, then they're trash. So number 1 is an appointment. Number 2 is a lead. Number 3 is an SOI candidate. And number 4 is the trash.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Anybody else? let's see, Marie, for going through that info. What is I need? Okay. So Marie was saying thank you. Well, you're so welcome, Marie. So let's see. Oh, here's my chat. I didn't have my chat open. Charles, can you repeat? I need much of this on underlying strategy and thinking. So okay. So anyway, without that, it's always a challenge to be the presenter and the moderator because it's distracting. You know, I mean, it's important that I do it. So I do both, but it can be, as ADD as the rest of it. So anyway, well, that's all I have. Unless you have any questions, if you have any questions real quick, I'll give it another second. Unmute yourself or send me an instant message. I have them both open, and we'll just go from there. If not, have an awesome day. And remember, for those guys that are in the Productive Agent program, you have 4 things to do every day. Number 1, call your partner. Affirmations are an option, not mandatory. If you do, I think they'll help you. So call your partner. Tell your partner your intentions for the day, which your intentions is your schedule. Should be predetermined. You don't get to make up your schedule on the fly. And then number 2 is go ahead and actually do your schedule. And then number 3 is call your partner back, and then let your partner know, that convey to your partner what it is you did. And then number 4 is call the voicemail and tell us via the voicemail everything that you've done that day. So that's it. If you do those, I promise you, over a period of time, remember, lead generation is not something it's not a magic pill as far as you do one task, a deal pops up in your lap. This is something that you have to do day in and day out, and the accumulation effect is where the money's at. The day in and day out will let things accumulate on behalf of you. So anyway, that's that. I'll end the recording right now, and I'll stick around for another second, but the recording